If your insurrection anniversary bingo card had Pope Francis poking Donald Trump in a big way, you are in luck, and please stay tuned because I have the breaking story for you next. Donald Trump is set to take office in just 2 weeks, and of course he's sucking all the oxygen out of the room. He's been busy floating pardons for the January 6th rioters, stacking his administration with billionaires and loyal lackeys, and then there's his full-time job of demonizing immigrants. But today Pope Francis has played a card that he had up his sleeve, and it has the media and social media buzzing. Before I dive into just how the Pope is getting under Trump's skin today, let's rewind a bit and take a look at their history. In researching this story, my memory was jarred, and I was surprised to see the level of animosity between the two, and spoiler alert, turning the other cheek is not their style. Have a look at Trump's response to the Pope saying he's not a man of God, and at one point the audience laughs in his face.
Donald Trump versus the Pope, I thought I'd never say those words together.
How surprised were you by what the Pope said? For those who don't know, he said, part of what he said was, a person who thinks only about building walls, wherever they may be, and not of building bridges is not Christian. This is not the gospel.
Well, I didn't think it was a good thing for him to say, frankly, and he was talking about the border. And as you know, I'm very strong on border security, and we have to have a border in this country, and we certainly don't have one right now. And as you know, we're talking about building a wall. We're going to build a wall, and Mexico is going to pay for the wall, and that's the way it is. We have a trade balance, and if you look at it, imbalance of about $58 billion with Mexico. And it's really more than that because we also subsidize, et cetera, et cetera. So they're going to pay for the wall. But somehow the government of Mexico spoke with the Pope. I mean, they spent a lot of time with the Pope. And by the time he left, he made a statement. I don't know.
Wait, you think the government of Mexico somehow got the Pope to say this?
Well, I don't think they said that way, but I think they probably talked about, isn't it terrible that Mr. Trump wants to have border security, et cetera, et cetera. And the Pope made the statement, and I think it was probably a little bit nicer statement than was reported by you folks in the media, because after I read it, it was a little bit softer. But the bottom line is we've got to have a border. We've got to have security. We have tremendous illegal immigration in the country.
Well, I'll just say the Pope did go on to say this is not the gospel. As far as what you have said about whether I would advise to vote or not to vote, I'm not going to get involved with that.
And now let's fast forward to the next chapter in the battle between the Pope of the world and the Pope of Mar-a-Lago. The Daily Beast reported, Pope Francis still has some tricks up his sleeve, having just appointed a sharp critic of Donald Trump to be the next Archbishop of D.C. And the Washington Times posted, the Pope was tapping one of his most progressive, like-minded allies, and the Washington Examiner said,
Pope Francis named Cardinal Robert McElroy to be the Archbishop over Washington, D.C. The promotion comes on January 6, 2 weeks before President-elect Donald Trump is inaugurated. 70-year-old McElroy was the outspoken bishop from San Diego who had criticized Trump's deportation plans since his first term.
We can say only that this man is not Christian if he has said things like that. You've been in fights with a lot of people, but with the Pope, I mean, does it give you pause?
The Pope, global spiritual leader.
He's a handful. I love him dearly. He's a handful.
Politics. Okay, go ahead. Your thoughts.
First of all, I think he's right that much of what Donald Trump says about his immigration policy is unchristian. And I 100% agree with that, with what the major point the Pope is making. Deporting people, 11 million, he's just going to get rid of them. He's going to build a wall. It's simplistic, it's unrealistic, and I would say unchristian.
For a religious leader to question a person's faith is disgraceful. I'm proud to be a Christian, and as president, I will not allow Christianity to be consistently attacked and weakened.
Our own diocese tend to focus our own diocese. And one of the contributions which, in the role of cardinals, we can make is to point with some constancy to that idea that we are part of a universal community.
In 2017, McElroy said, quote, "We must disrupt those who would seek to send troops into our streets and deport the undocumented to rip mothers and fathers from their families." The cardinal has also called for the ordination of women as deacons during his career. McElroy is a native of San Francisco and succeeded Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone in 2022. This was after Cordileone recommended Representative Nancy Pelosi not receive communion due to her stance on abortion, McElroy rejected that recommendation. Cardinal Wilton Gregory, the previous Archbishop of Washington since 2019, is retiring. He was the first black leader of the Catholic Church in Washington and the first ever black U.S. cardinal.
First off, I think it was blasphemous for the Pope to accuse Donald Trump of not being a Christian. After all, Donald has no shortage of well-staged photo documentation to support his love of the church. And there is no way that imagery like that is just a charade to appeal to gullible voters and at times separate them from their money.
All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again.
As for the Pope sticking a thorn in Trump's Washington, D.C. behind just days before he takes office, he is showing that at 88 years old, he retains the God-given talent of subtle subversion. McElroy isn't just a critic, he's
the centrist national director of legal services. It is demoralizing that the electorate lived through what happened last time and decided to go back to it. The Trump campaign has said the president-elect will start the largest deportation program in U.S. history during his second amortization, but questions remain about how he will find the detained people. Fear is whispered in immigrants' communities. Advocates say they are fielding calls from immigrants who with and without legal status and even from neutralized U.S. citizens worried about how amortization could affect them and their families, especially the American-born children. Advocates are urging families to draft legal paper in case this happens. We know that separation is an issue and we want to make sure that families are prepared for those who take care of their children, who take care of their properties, said Renata Bozito, Deputy Director at Florida Immigrants Coalition. In New Haven, Connecticut, immigrants advocates have been holding sessions in high school. That's because they have reached out us to request it, said Rachel Dorff, Director of Legal Services for Integrated Refugee Immigrant Services. A lot of kids have questioned, and especially kids in mixed status families. They are really afraid of Trump deportation plan and want to understand their rights. In Chicago, immigrants attorney